Gamers, I present to you a Warlock Threadling build in 2024. Yes, we are using Prismatic, yes, we are using Swarmers, and no, we are not using Thread of Evolution because we're on Prismatic. You do not need it for this build to be good, and this build is incredibly easy to use. The content you're seeing right now is from the Legend campaign, and it is just kind of tearing rooms up, especially if they're filled with ads, and we're going to make Tangles fun again because this episode allows it. You're also going to be drowning in Transcendence energy, but honestly, when you're playing Titan and Warlock, when isn't that the case? So just be ready to be Transcendent a lot. First off, aspects. We're rocking with Feed the Void for enough grenade energy regen to spam our Threadling nades at the cost of a fragment slot, and obviously, we're going to be running with Weaver's Call for the ability to purge Threadlings, and to also create Threadlings whenever we use our class ability. And for said class ability, we're going to be running Phoenix Dive for the lower cooldown and faster cast time, ensuring that we're creating Threadlings as frequently and conveniently as possible. We're obviously going to be running the Threadling Grenade as it's the main identity of this build. It's going to hit like a truck and be our primary form of ability damage aside from our super, and they're going to be hitting even harder since we're running Swarmers to make them unravel as well. Pair this with Devour and its uptime is going to be basically infinite. For melee, we run Incendiary Snap because it generates a ton of light transcendence, and obviously both hits hard and applies a bunch of scorch attacks, leading to ignitions. But if maxing out your transcendence meter isn't a priority for you, and you'd rather just use a special weapon to do that, like Indebted Kindness, I'd recommend taking Arcane Needle, as it has a lot more range, and it's an easier investment to make into your Devour procs if one of your Threadling nades fails to secure a kill. For your super, you can run whatever you want, whether it be Song of Flame for ad clear, Nova Bomb for big damage, or Needle Storm to complement Euphony. Unfortunately for me though, Euphony has not dropped yet, so I cannot give my 2 cents on it, but from what I've heard, it's cracked with the Threadling build. But anyways, let's get into the Fragments. So first of all, your jump won't matter. Have it be whatever you want. But anyways, Fragments. Facet of Devotion. We run this because we're going to always be unraveling targets, which is a strand debuff, so we're going to be getting extra light transcendence whenever we kill an unraveled target. Keep in mind, Swarmers allows our Threadlings to unravel, but if you do end up going with Arcane Needle, that will also unravel targets for you. Facet of Courage. We use this so that whenever a target is being unraveled, our light abilities will do more damage, so Nova Bomb, that will do more damage. Song of Flame, that will also do more damage. Incendiary Snap, that will do more damage. Now, if you're using Song of Flame, you might not be doing a lot of damage with your abilities to a single boss, and this is kind of meant for boss targets. So you could swap this out for something else if you're running Needle Storm for sure, or if you're running Song of Flame and you kind of are only using it for ad clear, you could probably swap out Facet of Courage. I'd probably swap that out for either Facet of Bravery or Facet of Dominance, because Facet of Bravery will let your primary weapon, if it's strand anyways, benefit heavily whenever you get a melee kill by giving it unraveling rounds, and Facet of Dominance will allow you to basically weaken targets with your Transcendence Grenade, which is really good. Third is Facet of Protection. This is kind of essential in almost any Prismatic build. Most of them are going to use this. I won't say essential, but it's a pretty solid pick. It just raises your survivability by a lot and gives you extra strength. Can't really ever go wrong there. Facet of Balance is really great because we're basically just going to be getting a bunch of darkness kills, which gives us more grenade energy. Even when your Threadlings are actively getting kills themselves, they are replenishing their own energy. So Facet of Balance is a really strong fragment to run with this build. And Facet of Hope, we're basically always going to have Radiant because of something we're speccing into on the artifact. So this is just great for having your Phoenix Dive up more. You'll be able to make more Threadlings whenever you use that. Now again, we talked about what you can swap out for Facet of Courage with either Facet of Bravery or Facet of Dominance. I will say, if you don't want to do that and you feel like your survivability is good, you can also do that with Facet of Protection. If you really don't feel like you need the extra survivability from this fragment, I would also recommend thinking about swapping this one out for Facet of Bravery or Facet of Dominance. Now keep in mind, Facet of Bravery is only going to work if you have a strand weapon on. So for the artifact, you can have your choice of champion mods. I usually always run Unstoppable Sidearm and Hand Cannon because those are the weapons I find myself using the most. For second column, Elemental Charge can be pretty good because it makes it so that your Elemental Charge mods only cost 1 instead of, I believe, 3 usually. And this helps you get armor charges for destroying your own tangles, but it does cost you an important mod slot, so it's really up to your discretion whether you want to use it or not. Probably wouldn't recommend it if you're trying to do heavy boss damage. And then you can just take whatever else you want here to unlock your third column. But for the third column, Threaded Blast is phenomenal. The only downside is that you need to use a strand weapon, but this makes your tangles hit like a truck, and it massively increases the range of them. You're going to be shocked by how much you're actually getting kills on big units with tangles. It makes them feel like they should feel. And then I also run Press the Advantage for the comfort stats and the reload speed whenever I destroy a shield. It's just great because I'm going to be destroying shields all the time with tangles, my swarmers, and everything. And this will just make my weapon feel better as a result. And the other perks don't really matter too much to us. If you want to use a kinetic primary instead of a strand primary, you can get away with using elemental siphon, although that's really in the nature of this build. I know not everyone likes to restrict what they can use. I still highly recommend a strand primary. It's not essential, and if you aren't using a strand primary, take elemental siphon, as it can make void breaches and fire sprites for you if you're using Song of Flame or Nova Bomb. For fourth column, Radiant Orbs is essential. This allows us to skip out on Facet of Dawn for our fragments, and basically is going to give us more Radiant than Facet of Dawn ever could, because Facet of Dawn gives you a really low timer. But here, you can easily get orbs. You're going to be generating orbs. The orb economy has been great ever since Lightfall, so nothing's changed. You're still going to be making tons of orbs all over the place and being Radiant almost 100% of the time. The Galvanic Armor does not matter. And Void Hegemony only matters if you're going to be using the fragment that makes your Transcendent Grenades apply Weaken. That's the only time Hegemony is really going to matter either. If you are playing in a team context, I like to have Galvanic Armor just in case somebody else gives me Amplified. But for the most part, Galvanic Armor and Void Hegemony are going to be kind of useless unless you're making a fragment swap for Void Hegemony or have a teammate that gives you Amplified. For fifth column, Expanding Abyss, I use this because I like Nova Bomb. You can run whatever you want in the fifth column as a replacement for Expanding Abyss if you don't want to use Nova Bomb. But, you know, it's just a really solid pick, Expanding Abysses. And the one that you absolutely always want to have is Shield Crush, because you're almost always going to be Radiant, which gives you faster grenade recharge. There's the artifact. So for weapons, I'm a big hand cannon fan, so I like to run Better Devils here. It got remastered this episode, and it is the only hand cannon in the game that can rock Demolitionist and Hatchling. Now, for this build, since we're using Devour, Demolitionist is a little bit overkill, but I don't care. I run it anyways, plus I just love the feel of this weapon. If you don't have a Better Devils, you grind it out from Crucible. It is RNG. You can farm it from Shaxx packages. I recommend prestiging a few times first, that you can have multiple rows to choose perks from. But if you don't want to farm Crucible for a Better Devils, Round Robin's a good follow-up pick because it has Subsistence and Hatchling. Now, if you're not tied to hand cannons like I am, you can also get away with using a Rufus's Fury with Demo Hatchling. That is also a phenomenal weapon, but like I said, I'm a big hand cannon guy, so I like this Better Devils roll the most. For my secondary, I run Indebted Kindness, but if you really wanted to get crazy, absolutely crazy, and start applying more weakening and getting Devour procs just from weapon kills, I'd say run whatever heavy you want and use Buried Bloodline if you have it. This thing's incredible. It weakens targets and gives you Devour. So if you don't want to rely on your Transcendent Grenade for weakening, you can use this. Again, this is overkill in my opinion, and it's pretty restrictive. Like usually a lot of people would probably run an exotic heavy like Microcosm or something like that. But if you have the room for it, I would definitely recommend Buried Bloodline. If not though, Indebted Kindness does the trick 100% and does a great job at just building up your light Transcendence energy anyways, so really good weapons to have. So for armor mods, you definitely want to run a Strand Siphon on the helmet. Now I double up on it because I want to get my super faster and you get stronger orbs when you double up, but you can also replace the second one for a heavy ammo finder, special ammo finder, radiant light, powerful friends, whatever you want to run here. You don't have to double up on it. I'm just doing that because I want my super back faster, but for like a raid or a dungeon or something, maybe I'll swap off to one of the other things to give other people armor charge. Bolstering detonation on the arms is very important because it gives you your class ability energy back, and momentum transfer is really important because it gives you your melee energy back. Now, I also run impact induction for even more grenade energy recharge, but like I said, that's kind of overkill. Any kind of grenade recharge outside of Devour is overkill in my opinion, so you could swap this out for a focusing strike if you want, just for more class ability energy. I'm not going to do that. I am okay with it being overkill, but if you want your class ability to come back even faster, highly recommend swapping out your impact induction for a focusing strike. Now, for the chest piece, obviously run whatever resistances you want. It doesn't really matter. For the legs, though, this is going to change based on the activity that you're doing. If you're doing a raid, I honestly recommend just scrapping everything and just doing your surges like you normally would. If you're dishing out a lot of boss damage, just focus on your surges. But if you're doing just regular general gameplay, I highly recommend putting on Invigoration. as you'll get more melee cooldown whenever you pick up an orb. We don't want grenade cooldown because it's overkill. We want our melees up as much as possible because it feeds our grenade as well, our class ability, and it gives us a lot of light transcendence energy. So invigoration here is the best bet in my opinion. Then you want to run an elemental charge so that you can get armor charges whenever you break tangles. It is chance based, it's not going to happen every time, but you know, more armor charged is better. You're going to be getting a bunch of armor charge from picking up orbs anyways, but you know, this is just the cherry on top. Especially because it only costs 1 mod slot, only 1 energy as opposed to 3 like it normally would in a season. Don't recommend running it unless it costs 1 though. And then I like to run a strand weapon surge just so my better devils can hit a little harder. Or if I'm going to run scintillation or a cataphract or something, that can also hit a little bit harder. Again, only use this for general purpose gameplay, not if you're focusing heavily on boss damage. If you want to do boss damage, obviously match your surges. And if your class item, Powerful Attraction is a must. I don't know how people live without Powerful Attraction. It's just phenomenal for picking up orbs, especially because you're going to be Phoenix diving all the time with this build, so you're going to be picking up orbs all the time with Powerful Attraction. I also like to run Distribution, just because you're usually going to be using your Phoenix Dive within the range that Distribution will proc, so it's nice to just give energy back to your melee and grenade after that. And I run Bomber as well for grenade cooldown, but you could run Outreach if you want instead for more melee cooldown. Again, I think any kind of grenade recharge is overkill with Devour, but I'm okay with running Bomber here. I don't care about my melee that much. I already have a lot of uptime on it. And there's all your armor mods. Yeah, that's the gist of the build. It's an ad clearing machine and holds up in endgame as well. The only thing that lacks in this build is strong boss damage, but that's only because you're running swarmers instead of a damage exotic. If you're willing to sacrifice the unraveling capabilities of your Threadlings for some more boss damage from either a Star Eater class item, or by working necrotic grips into a needle rotation, you can, but for ad clear, this build is unstoppable. I've been working on this video for a long time now and realize I am no longer the first person to talk about this build, unfortunately, but I put in the work, so I'm posting it. Also, if you're watching this on the day it goes live, it is the same day as the Act 2 drop of Echoes, so you might want to swap out Indebted Kindness for the new Solar Rocket sidearm as well. Other than that, the build should remain largely unaffected by seasonal meta shifts for the Echoes episode. I hope you enjoy the build and have a great day. I'm Haderaxe, signing off. Peace.